the OpenAI cost has only ended up being 2, 3, 5% of revenue. The reason I'm squishy on the number is because annual payments should be kind of accrued. You should take the annuals and kind of spread it out over the year and see what the cost is for a year. So because of the high ratio of annuals that I have, I don't have a perfect answer for this yet, but it's less than you think.
Could you expand more on hosting your own AI? Was it difficult? Any learnings we could benefit from?
Yeah, I mean, so Whisper, the OpenAI transcription model, is open source, which means you can like download the model. And it's been packaged up in some open source things like Whisper X and Faster Whisper, which are like mods essentially of Whisper. And then you can launch that. There's a lot of like API services. RunPod, who I use, are fantastic. They're more technical, but I wanted to get the cost as low as possible. If I recall correctly, the OpenAI hosted Whisper API is something like 36 cents an hour. And I think they call it 0.6 of a cent a minute or something like this, but it's 36 cents an hour. I can do it for like a quarter of that myself. And you're like a little bit on your own if things go sideways. But a lot of what I'm doing here is like a project to learn how to do all this stuff. And so messing with Dockers and like I had heard about those things. I didn't really know what they were, but ChatGPT can really do everything. It can teach you anything, particularly technical things. Yeah. So I was like, how
answering also takes technical questions without an engineering background.
I was like, what is Docker? How does Docker work? And I'm like, okay, cool. Here's a bunch of docs from this RunPod thing. How does this work? Like, if you're clever about what you're asking, you can learn anything, particularly technical things. It's really just incredible. Things that, by the way, you could have learned with just Google, but it would have been harder. You'd have to find the right website and learn. Like the information has been there. It's just packaged in such a better way as a chatbot.
I don't know if you cover this because I'm not technical. Okay. But Josh, could you share how do you manage token usage in your app? I guess it's one of the biggest pain points for
So this is so that question and others led me to sort of like intuit what a server is. I was like, I need a computer that can run some of these more private things like the OpenAI calls. So I use Google Functions. I use Firebase functions for all the backend stuff. Really all the app does is it records the audio and then uploads the audio. Once the audio is off your device, everything else happens in the cloud. So transcription, summarization, saving it, anything you do, if you make it a favorite or put in a folder, all that stuff is recorded on Firebase on my database. And this is sort of like an organic learning because what would happen, it wasn't about what you just asked, whoever asked that, about the keys, like the secrets, it was more about you'd record the audio and send it up for a thing and it would take time for it to come back. And if you like changed apps or if you turned off your phone, it would just lose the recording. So I sort of figured out early on that I need to get that audio off the phone and do all the processing that isn't going to be instant. It's going to take a few minutes of like waiting for the server to reply. I learned about webhooks and sort of asynchronous things like that. It has been my goal and I've been like adjacent to this. I have a degree in math. Like I'm not a random, like I'm an analytical guy anyway. So this was a bridge for me. Yeah. I don't mean to imply that this is for everybody, but for me, I was close to it already. And so AI was able to get me the rest of the way there. But I learned about servers and how they work and cloud functions and serverless and all this stuff. It's like I related it to if you've ever been into a show, like you've watched like a really good show like Breaking Bad or Mad Men, any of these great shows, and you have to wait because the like season ends and you're waiting for the next season to start. Like, how is it going to resolve? If you just come in right now to become an engineer, there's all these things have already been built. Like it's amazing. Like making websites on Next.js, I was like, how can I like from the website, like have something done that like makes an action happen on the server? And I like look around, like they just invented something called server actions. It's like terrific. Like I'm coming in so late to a lot of this stuff that it's all fully baked. I don't know if that made any sense. This isn't live, right?
It's really
you can edit this
I love it. No, I love this. I love this, Josh. Honestly, it's just like to see you talk about this because the website's beautiful as well, man. Like it really is. And you're like, hey, I used AI. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will actually,
an AI app.
The website is actually the one piece of customer facing code that I didn't make. I hired a guy on Upwork to implement the design because it has this cool scrolly thing that I just couldn't figure out. Someone asked a question about token usage.
Yep.
I don't think that's next, but I just want to jump to that. So, how do I minimize token usage from Russ? One of my instincts on this is that the thing I want to do is set no limits. I want to use the best APIs for the best summary, the best transcription. I don't want to hold back at all. Use all the tokens you want. And I think it makes the product better. Here's some like free advice for anyone out there. I see this thing all the time in AI startups that the free version is using like GPT 3.5 and the pro version is using GPT 4.0. So you're using the better AI models for the people who pay. That is in some ways maybe even the opposite of what you should be doing, but it's certainly half wrong. Use the best models. Give the best version of the thing in the demo. It doesn't make any sense in my view to make the demo less good. You should make the demo more good. There's so many things I do to like optimize for the new user for when they first download and they push the record button and they record, hello, what does this thing do? Stop. Right? So they've recorded 3 seconds when the average recording is 15 minutes. They've recorded 3 seconds. I want to make sure a transcription and summary come up immediately, right? So I run like excess servers to just make sure there's no waiting, no cold starts, no queues, like you're going right away, delivering that top-notch experience. So with token usage, I'm trying to be as generous as I can. For people who don't know what that means, when you run a command in AI, the length of the response and the length of the input is measured and you're billed based on that. That's what Russ is asking there.